Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us here together tonight. We come tonight from different perspectives, from different neighborhoods, different philosophies about the way things should be governed. Lord, tonight, let tonight our guiding principle be the fact that we live in the same community with the same goals, hopes, and dreams for our children, our families, and our future. Bless the actions we're about to take in the spirit in which we deliberate them. We ask for these things in the name of your Son and our Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
We invite you to join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and I want to just announce up front we have a closed session tonight. It's listed as economic development, and I'm not going to try to rush the meeting along, but that item is very important. It could very much shape the way Blackstone grows in the years to come. So if you see me trying to pick up the pace a little bit tonight, that has a lot to do with it. Council has imposed a 3-minute speakers limit. We've always been sort of flexible with that tonight, but if you get to repeating yourself and going over the same issue, I'll probably ask you to stop so we can allow more people to participate. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 3 public hearings tonight. The first is a text amendment allowing small engine repair as a use by conditional permit in the downtown business district or business district anywhere. I believe this was recommended unanimously 4-0 by the Planning Commission.
It is, and it has been. Mr. Vaughn is here. As is our practice, in order to move forward with a project that is not already addressed in our zoning ordinance, either as a use by special exception or as a conditional use, we modify text first, and that will determine whether he can apply to move forward. Planning Commission did recommend the attached definition change, which will allow small engine repair fully enclosed. I know downtown has been some issue and it puts efforts in downtown. I think Mr. Vaughn is agreeable that any of the repairs or storage will be done within a fully enclosed building. You can see he's already put a roll-up door in the back of the building, and that will be really one of the main conditions, depending on, and that will, I think, predicate how his neighbors also view the operation.
For the first item we're taking there, folks, he's giving you a sneak preview, but this issue right here before us is not about Mr. Vaughn. This is Mr. Vaughn is paving the way for this request, but this is a public hearing on whether or not anywhere in a business district you want to allow a small engine repair shop with a conditional use permit. That means the governing body will have the right to, have to come before this panel, whoever is here. Anyone to speak for or against this proposed text amendment? I know Mr. Vaughn has a request next for his specific venture at 300 South Main. Anyone to speak for or against? Hearing none, I'll order that public hearing closed. You have a 4-0 recommendation to approve the change from the Planning Commission.
Let me say one thing.
Yes.
The only thing that I've gotten in talking to people is the possibility of excessive noise and chainsaws and that type of thing. And I haven't heard this addressed or approached, and if that can be controlled, then I'm not standing in the way of prosperity or progress. But I can understand the reluctance of people conducting business elsewhere, not wanting that type of noise.
Right.
And I'm sure oil pollution and all that kind of stuff is being considered too, so. They're just concerns of mine.
Sure. Well, the text amendment that you're being asked to vote on tonight says the following: all activities shall be conducted within the primary structure.
And that includes storage.
That does not necessarily take care of noise.
Certainly the noise could go beyond the structure, but like I say, if he's testing and, that might happen outside, but I've walked by some businesses that have air conditioners that are very loud on Main Street.
I think we have some precedents, so Earl's was in a GB district for years and years down there on the south end of town, and Mr. Noggle visually may not have, but I never got a complaint about the noise from Mr. Noggle's place.
Which is a difference, there was also a difference in the location, whether it was right downtown or.
It's a little bit out of the core business district. It was down there, a little more space, a little more open space. We've had
That doesn't mean what I'm saying is negative toward this business.
No.
It's just concerns of it.
Sure it is.
I understand it was a 4-0 vote. Who was the absentee?
Mr. Watkins.
Okay.
And also keep in mind this, folks,
Where you stood.
if later you decide to grant this permit, it is a conditional use permit. You can review it in 6 months. You can express concerns about noise, and we have complaints about noise. You can revoke it, and conditional use permit gives the local governing body all sorts of flexibility.
I share Mr. Monkear's concerns, but I do like the flexibility of if we move forward. This is just housekeeping to move forward. Is that correct?
Right. But this is a very important vote. This is saying that all throughout Blackstone, wherever there's a business zone, you will permit a small engine repair shop with a conditional use permit. It means every one of them has to come before you. But you are basically making a town-wide zoning change. You're amending the zoning ordinance.
And allowing people to apply. What you're doing is allowing not just this gentleman, but every other citizen or property owner or business owner in the town to apply in the BG district, but it has to go to planning commission and town council.
That's the good news.
It's too late.
If you're worried, that's the control factor.
Is the chamber or DBI weighed in?
I have not heard from either. I have not.
It's in a historical district is the reason I'm asking.
Well, I think the first conversation I had with Mr. Vaughn was, you're gonna have to make sure everybody's satisfied about not having stuff stored outside. And he's allowed to do retail. I mean, he can sell blades and chains and stuff now. He can open up a retail business. But I said, man, if this thing's gonna look like Mr. Noggles' place, God bless him, and he works on my lawnmower, but phew, you're not gonna make a lot of friends if you've got a lot of stuff stored outside, thus the storage inside.
Well, I would recommend to council, if a motion is going to be made tonight, I would, and Mr. Vaughn, I know that we've had several discussions, and the wheels of progress grind slow, and when you're in a municipal government, there are all kinds of safeguards that maybe the county doesn't have, but I would just urge, if there are some good concerns here, review it in 6 months, just like you've done many other conditional use permits. Chief Tomer.
I also have the concern of flammable liquids being stored inside the strip mall.
Okay. Just, Chief Tomer's raised a concern about flammable liquids. That would come, well, that's a general issue. That's not about Mr. Vaughn, that's anybody. Did the planning commission discuss the flammable liquids being stored?
I don't think that was really a topic at the planning commission level. I think that the topic is more the aesthetics. And that's where the planning commission wanted to make sure there wasn't gonna be a shed out there where things are stored.
That's a fair point.
Yeah, fair commentary. The noise obviously could be, it's not a residential district, thank goodness, it doesn't border a residential district, thank goodness. So I think, you could even go as far as you wanted to have some hours of operation, but I think with it being a business district, I think the hours of operation during the day are what you're trying to avoid with the louder noise interfering with the adjacent businesses, but,
I would say this as far as noise. As someone who stands on the street oftentimes trying to talk to people, there is more noise in this town from the passing big rig. You can't have a 30-second conversation with your best friend without having to say, let me just go on, see you later, talk to you later. So I don't think the noise is going to be a big issue as you may think.
This gentleman seems to be infinitely adjustable and agreeable to adjustments, and I think maybe as we go along, if we find something that's wrong, maybe just a word, and we'll make whatever adjustments. I don't like to stand in the way of anybody's progress or saying pick winners and losers in any business.
Right.
I said that many times. I do have the noise concern, and that you can't box that in sometimes.
Right.
That was my only real.
Mr. Kelly, what's your pleasure? Chief Tomer, I don't know how to address Chief Tomer's concerns
Is
because
there any other precedents? Do we have any other small towns similar to us that do you have any idea? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot, I don't mean to, but
in my personal opinion, I think we've set the precedent. We've had it many times, small engine repairs in town. I think it's possible, it's compatible with conditions, obviously. With a historic district, it's a little different, but I think Mr. Vaughn has agreed, and I think he put it in writing, he put it 6 months. Well, let's ask Dion, is there fire code that prevents, is that already there?
It probably is, that there needs to be a storage, flammable storage bin
Okay.
for all the materials.
I think good old small town zoning, is that agreeable to you? That you will comply in all form and fashion
his
with
best interest not to catch
appropriate
fire.
fire code as far as the storage of liquid? And that can be added as a condition along with the 6 month. I don't know that right about flammable.
well, it's in his best interest more than anybody's. Of course, his neighbors come in a close second to avoid a fire. And of course, this business site is connected to other structures, whereas Earl's, Noggles were by themselves, more or less. Great points. I would recommend if council approves it, make it contingent upon that there's a evaluation of the fire ordinance or whatever building code. Right. Members of council, what's your play? This is just a general amendment on the zoning. We have not gotten to Mr. Vaughn's specific request yet, although we're talking about it, which is what precipitated this request. They don't all rush in at once now.
Well, I've got indigestion about this kind of thing in the historical district. But I also, I'm a small businessman too, you know, I'm like Mr. McCure, I don't want to stay in the way of progress, so, it's tough. It's a tough decision, I mean, but, I think with the conditions that we have in place as a council, that we should be able to monitor and police it. So therefore, I'll make a motion to approve, the planning council's recommendation for this ordinance.
Okay, Mr. Green has moved. Is there a second? Mr. Nash has seconded to amend the zoning ordinance to allow this use as a conditional use permit. Generally speaking, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The text amendment is passed 7-0. Next, we have a public hearing on the specific request of Ryan Andrew Vaughn at 300 South Main Street, a building that is currently unoccupied, that he wishes to conduct business in. At this time, anyone to speak for or against? I do see Mr. Vaughn. I presume you are for. Anyone to speak against the request? Mr. Ryan Andrew Vaughn. Mr. Vaughn, anything you care to inform the council about?
I'll make a brief statement.
Sure. Sorry.
I'm Ryan Vaughn, just to let everybody know. My main thing is I'm trying to offer like a mobile service mainly. That's why I didn't need a really big building. I didn't need a whole lot of storage. Main Street provided great advertisement. That was the purpose of wanting to be on Main Street. I have a covered trailer that I'm gonna have all my tools in where I can go to people's houses to work on stuff, to try to keep down on having storage inside of town. And like I say, everything will be inside the confined structure. All the waste oil and everything has already been taken care of. I'm set up with the same company that picks up the oil express care. It'll all be keeping inside of metal cans, 55-gallon drums to keep from leakage, which I used to be a firefighter, so I have hazmat awareness and all that stuff too. So I know everything about hazardous materials and keeping them contained and the environment and all that stuff. As far as noise, I'm planning on keeping everything inside, keep it as quiet as possible. It's a 6-month trial period that can be revoked at any time. I don't think y'all brought that up. Anytime in the 6 months I'm in violation, it can be revoked. Anytime, whether I'm there for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I've agreed to that because I don't plan on breaking any other rules. And that's pretty much it.
My anxiety levels have eased. I like the mobile. I wish you well. I think that's gonna be a huge success.
I don't think anybody owns a small engine repair shop is going to go in there one night and say, let's see what they all sound like running together. I think,
Well, most people don't have the way, especially living in town, to transport a lawnmower to a shop.
Right.
The average person doesn't keep a trailer.
You're going to be very convenient for a lot of folks.
So I can go to your house and fix it and save you a lot of time and money versus you taking off of work, renting a trailer or borrowing a trailer from a friend and bringing it up. And, I mean, my age, I feel like, plays a lot of factor into it. I feel like I can keep up with the workload.
You're very young.
So, I mean, I'm really eager to start it and to make a point and prove everybody wrong. I know it's a lot of negative opinions on it.
Not really, just concern. I really haven't heard
most of the negative concerns are based off of what everybody else sees on another small engine repair.
Fair.
But what I'm trying to do is totally different than what anyone else is doing. So, I know you kind of got to base it off of what you know, but what I'm talking about doing would be totally different. That's why I agreed to the 6-month probationary period that could be revoked at any time, because I have a whole different concept on it.
Right.
And I still feel like that a lot of people may get the assumption of what they've seen before.
Sure. Thank you very much for your interest in Blackstone, your investment, and coming to tonight's meeting. Anyone else? Mr. William Mitchell, very briefly, yes. We've got a big agenda tonight.
I heard you first time.
I know.
I say let him get a conditional use permit, and he's seem to have experience in what he's doing, and I'll be his first customer.
All righty. Sounds like a testimonial there. Members of council,
Working on.
members of council, what's your pleasure?
I move to approve of the request and have a 6-month conditional use
Mr. Nash has moved. Is there a second? Mr. Tucker has seconded the motion. Before we, if the motion carries, I'll ask the clerk to pencil in on the November council agenda, review of the Adam Vaughn,
Does that motion?
Ryan Vaughn.
Include the,
Yeah, 6 month.
6 month review to be
Flammables
in
and
November
all
on the agenda, just to be safe. Because sometimes we, in the past, we, myself included, have forgotten things. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Very good. And we, last but not, speaking of grass and weeds, and this might just help your business. We have a proposed amendment to the grass weed ordinance, which, Mr. Norbeck, you correct me if I'm wrong, it's basically going to allow you to send one notice out.
Per year.
You'll have 15 days to comply, and you won't have to keep playing certified mail games with chronic violators of grass and trash and weeds.
Folks, on South Main Street, just south of Church, we just finally cut those. One of them is just a chronic tax.
Well, I'll say out loud, Huddle, what's up with the Huddle House?
It's commercial, you can't do anything with it.
House is in a commercial district in our.
Can't do anything with commercial grass.
We have no ordinance governing commercial
There is
districts.
not.
It only applies to residential.
So my father's lot behind Kangaroo
They didn't
Express,
have
we
to.
can grow that thing
He could.
to book. Well, we don't want to do that, but something we come close sometimes.
I would like to see him.
We
I
can,
like
we
that
can start
idea.
looking at that because, there's some vacant lots over on Tonsil Avenue. Yikes.
Yeah.
Some things that could look a little better. What we're bringing you tonight is
Residential.
Jennifer's constantly sending out certified letters every single time somebody doesn't cut. We've got chronic violators on Fall Street, South Main Street. This will allow us to send one at the beginning of the year. And if there's not compliance, consistent compliance, we can go ahead and cut the grass. And for the cost of the work be placed as a lien, just as we do now.
Plus $100 administrative fee.
$100 administrative fee
Can you do that every time you have to go cut it? Every 2 weeks? If every 15 days?
every time we go cut it.
All right.
How often are you having people come out and cut, Jennifer?
How often does that occur where the town actually goes in and bills a property owner because they're
For
so?
instance, South Main Street, how often those two homes?
That will probably be done 4 times within the year.
Well, to be honest, $100 administrative fee, people, I mean, it's cheaper to have the town come by and cut it than for someone to cut it themselves.
That's what we're finding
Now, the
is,
contractor
But that's in
will be-
addition to the, that's an
Yeah,
additional.
the contractor will charge $30, $40, and then it'll be $100 on
Yeah.
top of that.
problem is people sit back and say, $30. Wow, that's what the town does.
Correct. That's
And
what-
so we're constantly cutting these people's grass. Constantly cutting it.
Yep.
And having to send them letters and wait 15 days and have the neighbors aggravated. At a
It's
minimum,
$100 every time.
every time.
That puts a little bite into it.
Yeah.
It's not, and it's not
I thought
it's
it
not
was a one-time
exorbitant.
deal.
I
It's a
promise
little
you,
better.
they're frequent flyers. We're
Still.
not dealing with
Right.
folks that,
Someone got sick or someone's been in a hospital,
Yeah.
and it's a small town. We know who,
these are the homes that are being foreclosed, or these are the homes that are chronic tax, non-compliant
If we-
properties and.
we closed the hearing?
We haven't had the hearing on this yet.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to open the hearing. Anyone to speak for or against this get tough on grass and trash ordinance? And trash is included on this, and that's rather subjective, and that could be a touchy issue for some folks, but it's also touchy when your constituents ask you, what are y'all going to do about so-and-so, and you don't know what to tell them. They got a letter. Mr. Mitchell, this is only for the residential areas, which is where most of the violations are, but we have a few commercial as well.
It's resident uncommercial.
I'm going to,
Ordinances?
I would suggest that we
Did you change it?
No, it
change
says-
our ordinance to include commercial.
well, Madam Clerk has just informed us that this, what's before you actually does include commercial. Is that
It
correct?
says
I didn't
just-
catch that.
I asked Tessie because it,
It's private property, meaning, as it says, first paragraph, it says occupant of any private property.
Yeah, this is not, this
But
before us
I
does not
guess-
specify
I guess a
zone.
business is private property in essence too, I mean, I don't.
After whatever action's taken tonight, we'll clarify with Tessie. For now, just for the public's information, we'll act like it's both zones, commercial and residential. Members of council, I'm closing the hearing. What is your pleasure?
I have a question. I mean, why can't, I mean, is there something handcuffing us from doing it in the commercial?
okay, it's in the first paragraph there where it says, "It shall be unlawful for any owner or occupant of any private property, whether improved or unimproved." Tessie says that includes commercial as well.
Okay.
So I asked her
Never
that.
enforce commercial property.
I'd be
Right, but I asked
I'd be
her
delighted to make the motion to
specifically
approve
to
this.
But Mr. Green's made a good point, and Mr. Norbeck, you just said we've never enforced commercial property. I don't think there's anything in the ordinance to prohibit us from doing that. I think it's something
I think it's tested.
management has chosen to do that in the past. I think Mr. Green's right. I mean, we have a townwide dog ordinance. It doesn't say, well, that just affects commercial, doesn't affect
Or
commercial.
one or.
Yeah,
all
so
three.
I think the ordinance it would be in order
I
to,
asked Tessie specifically, and she said
Good
yes,
job.
that first.
So if we
paragraph.
pass this tonight, we pass this tonight, you can go cut,
start
you can start tomorrow on Huddle House.
And-
15 days.
and-
I'm chomping at the bit to make the
Can you do
motion.
with that, being that it's in bankruptcy court? That's the only reason they haven't done anything, I believe, is because it's tied up in bankruptcy court. The
Well,
owner would love to do
Well,
something.
see, bankruptcy is H2O. The property owner is Harper Brothers and Associates, isn't it?
And Eric probably knows better than anybody, but there is some kind of convoluted ownership.
Yeah.
It's that ground lease they
They
got out there.
can't touch, Harper Associates cannot touch the property because it's tied up in bankruptcy court with
Oh.
But the
US,
town can,
but the town
And put a
couldn't.
lien on the property.
and put a lien on the property. Unfortunately, it may be Harper Associates that gets the,
They would
get to
probably,
go
they
through
would
it.
probably take care of it anyway.
Yeah,
so.
I think so too.
So moved.
Mr. Green has moved to approve the ordinance as presented, and Ms. Thompson has seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Ladies and gentlemen, start your lawnmowers. If it's not running, go by and see Ryan and Juvon. Our only scheduled visitor tonight is Miss Jerry Moore, and this is when we normally waive the yard sale permit fee on the first Saturday in July.
So moved.
Y'all already done that.
Do we do that in perpetuity? We decide to do it every year?
No, you did that when you suggested DBI be her contact person.
Oh,
A
okay.
couple months ago, because they had a request, and y'all had already waived it.
So
I
you,
heard that you had already waived it and
Okay.
didn't even need me at all. I did hear that, and I know about the 3 minutes, so
Okay.
I just wanted to say thank you to Blackstone. I have a liaison. Your new director contacted me and doing a wonderful job of getting things to you all. What you have is a new flyer this time. I'm not going to have to come back with a new flyer. I got them before I came. The new card, anybody wants extras, or if I missed anybody, I'll get them on the way out. It is July 1st this year. Saturday, July 1st, and the only thing that I would ask further is that the liaison, make more contact, get more people to do things, and that you publish very widely that you are going to use a park or some such thing
Right.
for people, and it will be no charge, is that right?
well, there will be no charge. The town waives its yard sale permit fee for that day. I have tried to encourage, but of course you can't make folks have yard sales, but I've tried to encourage DBI. I think you're referring to Zachary Whitlow, to see if DBI would do something in the square. One year we had some yard sale people in the
He
square.
said he's gonna do it in the square.
And so we're gonna try to encourage that and publicize that.
Finally have a liaison. That means you're going to grow with the yard sales down here because you're going to publicize it more, and he's going to do more about it. He's already started. And so I have helped. That's the greatest news I've heard in a long time. We're coming up on, this is not the 10th year.
What year is this? This will be what?
Ninth.
This is the 9th year?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Y'all weren't on the first round, but anyway, I just wanted to say.
Please forgive us. We beg forgiveness. You always remind us that. We beg forgiveness.
Okay, so I'm just so delighted that we're now getting somewhere and gonna move ahead. And I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Ms.
and
Morden.
Please publicize that, and I will be advertising also.
Wonderful.
And I appreciate what you've done, and you can't say thank you.
You've got a great thing going. It's really big, and hopefully it'll get big
Thank
down
you.
here.
That's the first time you complimented me. Thank you.
I've been a big fan, but here's the thing: I'm not a yard sale guy. I just don't do it. But I know it's big. Well, but down here it hadn't caught on that day. I think a lot of people on July 1st, at least down here, whether it be because Fort Pickett used to have 4th of July, whatever, we just kind of programmed to kind of just chill. But there's money to be made that weekend, no doubt. I think you're doing great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Morden.
I really appreciate all that you've done to help me, and I will be back in the paper to advertise myself.
Thank you so much. Ms. Morden is our only scheduled visitor. Anyone else here tonight who would like to address council? There's a second period. I see Daphne Norfleet of Beach Cliff Road.
Daphne.
Daphne Cole. I had an email from Daphne Norfleet 2 days ago. So.
Yes. It's very rare that I get confused. Daphne's a rare name, and sure enough, there's another Daphne. I'm here tonight because I was wondering, the last time I was here, we were talking about the parking issue and whether or not to give summons or so on. And since I use the hair salon where the complaint came from, I've made a point, because usually you can't get your hair done in 2 hours. So I've made a point of parking behind the bank, or I've attempted to park in that lot, and that's my question. Is that owned by the town, the lot that's on the corner across from the
You talking about near Farmers Cafe?
Yes.
That's Jerome Wilson's lot.
Oh,
That's a
okay.
private lot. You can park there, unless Jerome has a problem, you can park there there's no limit on that parking lot.
We typically go in there one time a year and regrade it for them, since we use it, obviously.
Okay, well, since it doesn't belong to the town, I would sort of like to see that. A lot of the town is being covered. It's an impermeable surface almost all over the town. And in particular, that would be a good place to start, because at first I thought the town square wasn't impermeable. But when I looked over, it's not pavers, it's just stamped concrete. And the problem is that we really need the water to percolate through the ground. And if it's running off into all these different, I don't want to call it the sewer, but if you're running it through these systems, it's not recharging the springs in the area. That's also a great opportunity to clean the water. It cleans the water so it percolates through. So if that property actually belonged to the town, I was going to ask that you do an experiment as far as pave it with the pavers that they have and have it all set up. So yes, it's laid out.
Right.
And it would make the town look so much better and very updated. I know when they've talked about these the roundabouts for traffic, one of the things I've noticed with them is they most definitely use pavers. So when it rains, it's going to percolate through. I noticed, I know Crenshaw Methodist, they did a good job of whomever they contracted, made sure that there was plenty of area so that there would be water absorbed. But other parts of the town do not. Like behind Bevel's, they could have islands that should be able to have create permeable surfaces through there instead of one great big black asphalt, putting up heat and just forcing the water right down into our systems. And we have problems with our water. So as far as E. coli going through, people are just washing, letting their dogs or whatever go to the bathroom, washing right through. So anyway, I've overstated.
Well, that's okay. I just want to make sure, I want you to walk away from the podium clear. You mentioned sort of two different thoughts. The first thought you raised was 2-hour parking. Are you okay with
Well, the 2-hour parking, the thing was, I'm fine with that. But I thought, one of the reasons I don't park in that lot is they're great big holes and there's water.
It is uneven, that's true.
It's a mess in there.
Right.
So it's his, so I guess we can say, well, gee, that's nice. But it would be nice if the town looked good, and I think there might be grants that could be, because the big thing now is permeable surfaces in urban areas, that perhaps we could offer that to him instead of grading it, because I know people think gravel is permeable. It is not. It's impermeable. Even some areas as far as leaves and so on, the water hits it, runs straight off. It does not percolate through. So don't want to take anything away from you grading that area, but is there something that we could pursue to help him, or we just leave it that way?
I'll give you a couple ideas to think about. One of them was the town council authorized us in 2016 to apply for a downtown improvement grant. And one of the concepts in the downtown improvement grant, I can't say we specifically decided we're going to be using impermeable surfaces, and I know what you're talking about with the pavers, but at the time, I think there was some flux in the Wilson family, and I don't think Jerome was prepared to either sign a long-term lease or the town was prepared to buy the lot. But no improvements that were paid for by DHCD could be used on private property. So either he had to, or his family, or the trust, or the estate, whatever organization it was that owned it, because as you know, his father had passed away.
Yes, I understand.
And his mother had passed away. So I don't know exactly. Jerome is kind of the managing partner.
That's correct.
I don't think they were ready to sign a multi-year lease. And DHCD wasn't going to do it on a year-to-year lease. And I don't think that the town was prepared to purchase the lot. I think that Wilson's would sell the lot, but I don't think we were prepared to get enough grant money to buy the lot so that we could improve it. Some of the thoughts that are ongoing right now are perhaps we could do some plantings. It's not an attractive area. You're 100% right. Maybe in the front of the property on the backside of the sidewalk, maybe some plantings.
We got permission to put the handicap parking spaces in there. That was,
We can do some improvements there. They may be interested in selling it now. Perhaps the status of the property of the estate has changed. I'm not sure the town is ready to put public dollars into it, but I do think DHCD would consider it. But I don't think a long-term lease is really on the future. I think it's going to have to be a transaction.
I agree.
And the town's going to acquire it.
I think so too.
That was my understanding from Jerome. Our application went in. left the parking lot out as an element because we couldn't really come to a resolution to it. And one of the comments that were provided by DHCD back to us, parking lot needs to be addressed in your application. So that was
Okay.
a weakness in that.
Well, you answered my question because it's owned by it's not owned by the town.
No, it's not.
So we can't use that. But, and that had to do with the parking because I would park there, except that, you know, it messes up your shoes, even if it doesn't rain, you know, it's, you know, you got high heels on, you're gonna chew them up in the gravel, and it's unattractive. And then the other thing is, now that I realize that our town square is not permeable pavers,
The dance floor is not.
yeah, the dance floor, could we,
It's a stamped concrete.
could we have it pulled up and put pavers down?
We pulled it up once before when we laid it.
Well, you could, yeah. I mean, there's cost to that, obviously, but it would be.
Well, the state and the different environmental quality, they are really pushing for that, to go ahead and pull it up, and I'm even looking into paving our driveway.
I think you can actually get credit in your stormwater applications for impermeable surfaces versus permeable surfaces. The pavers actually give you credits now, and the stormwater rules, if you pay attention to such mundane things, are much more difficult over the past couple of years. I think Joe Allman, people like that have put up buildings recently can attest that the standards are much higher.
There is some good news. I left Richmond today. I parked for 2.5 hours and paid $30. So Mr. Wilson could put stripes up and put meters there. I paid $30 in downtown Richmond.
We don't want to
At a church lot, church-owned lot. So,
Yeah, it's high dollar down there, but I don't want to encourage that. I want to have nice, pretty paved
I agree. It
areas.
would be, you know, I tell you, a lot of folks would rejoice if they were driving down Main Street, especially on a Friday night, especially as packed as the Mexican and farmers are, and they saw permeable with some places where you could park, designated parking. I think it would be a win-win. Just getting there is hard. They would have to. I'll tell you what. I will ask, just informally, if Buildings and Properties gets at some point in time wants to have a discussion with the owner of that parking lot to maybe come up with a plan.
Okay.
Of course, it would be subject to public hearing and all that, so if any funds were to spend or to acquire the property, that would have to be a public hearing. So yeah, I'm gonna refer that to Buildings and Property. Thank you for coming tonight.
Yeah, thank you. And I would like for other people, when they start, you know, like, and I've mentioned it to the people at the Episcopal Church, because their parking lot, they did have some areas that would have been impermeable. They just cleared that thing out, and now any rainwater, they don't have any rain barrels, that stuff is shooting straight down. I mean, it's just right there, it's
Well,
just a hole in the ground.
If you look around town, in the last 20 years, McDonald's, Bond Secure, more and more lots that have been here for years have been paved. That is a tremendous amount of volume going into the stormwater,
Absolutely.
and eventually the bay. And I appreciate your concerns. It's a
Thank
great issue. Anyone else tonight before we get on with our minutes and fire chief's report? Anyone else? Thank you all. We'll have another opportunity for public comment at the end. Members of council, you have before you minutes from our last few meetings. What is your pleasure?
I move that we accept it as written.
And they're a little shorter than usual the last couple. Last couple. I don't think tonight's gonna be that night. Mr. Moncur has moved to approve. Is there a second? Any further discussion? Mr. Scott seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Chief Tomer. Another good report.
Good evening.
Blast.
Our new F-250 is here, the command vehicle. Still not in service yet, but we're getting bids on the outfitting of it. Tanker 7 was sold probably within 48 hours of posting it.
You did sell it.
Yep.
How about the skid unit?
Got to take pictures of it. I got to make sure it runs.
But it wasn't sold as well?
No,
Okay.
just the tanker. Sold to a company in Missouri. They actually flew in and drove it back.
Wow.
We're having a chicken luncheon this Saturday at 12 o'clock for $7 a plate. It's going to be a drive-through. And one of our other fundraisers is finally coming back, the Bull Blast. This is a good fundraiser for us. And in the past, Scotty has advertised on the lot with town's permission because town code says.
No, I will entertain a motion for a one event exception to waive the no advertising on town property ordinance to make an exception?
Only because it benefits our own town,
That's a
correct?
rare exception. Mr. Moncur has moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Nash is second. Any further discussion?
What date is that? Do you
Yeah,
know?
what's the date of the,
24th of June.
all right, so this is to allow advertising between now and to end at midnight on the 24th. So get, yeah. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0. Continue on, Mr. Chief Tomer.
I am planning to apply for a grant that should not cost any funds from the town of Blackstone
You're
through
here.
Firehouse Subs for a thermal imaging camera. 3 of our members completed an aerial class in Farmville. Our aerial device and members from the class made the Farmville Herald. It was a pretty decent class, 40-hour plus class for them to attend in Farmville. And of interest and note, this month we have 5 life members that have anniversaries for a combined 138 years service between those 5 life members.
Amazing.
So it's been a pretty successful trip for them.
Very good. Any questions for Chief Tomer?
Unit 2 should be on Gov Deals this week.
All right.
So if
Is
you
that
know,
running?
yes, with a jump.
Need better.
All right.
Very good. Thank you, Chief Tomer. Members of council will now proceed into our committee reports, and the first is your Employment and Police Committee. I always want to skip the bills, don't I? I guess I am a liberal after all. Your first batch of bills is $604,848.33.
To approve.
Is there a second to Mr. Nash? Ms. Thompson, a second to Mr. Nash's motion. These are checks not yet approved. Any questions about same?
I do. Pope Electrical for water, sewer, electric work for almost $1,400.
Where was this?
That was an accumulation of bills that had been over a year.
I mean, was it water, was it just water and sewer?
It was just in the, that department.
And then Bo Gibbs and Danny Dalton sidewalk repair for over 1,000. Is that for Marcellus?
Finding that title.
Seems
What?
awfully high for some.
Yeah, I rode by there and wondered about that myself.
Seems
$1,000
really high.
just for the tie-in?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah, bargain. Beautifully done.
it seems.
We do sidewalks.
A bargain by
We don't leave
whose
them
standards?
worse than we found them. We can't allow folks, when we do curb and gutter.
Like I said, they were gracious about it. They were gracious about it.
It was a tremendously steep slope at Bobby and Gail's house. It wasn't gonna work. To do these things, you have to tie them in, okay? You have to do
You're
this.
good. We're good.
I know it frets you in, I know it's private property and all those kinds of things, but we cannot allow a completed project to be poor. Same thing on Second Street. We had a series of driveways there that it was too steep, and we had to step in and fix it. B&B paid for a good portion of that because of the angles that they had designed were not adequate and not up to VDOT code. But we can't leave somebody in a worse, the Otta Bahar, we could not leave her in a worse situation than we found.
I understand that, but my question was just, I mean, do we bid that out? Because that seems, I mean, to be honest, it's some concrete that we just stick the, it just seems over $1,000 seems a little high for 10 feet or 8 feet of concrete.
You had to demolish it before it's flat and then come back.
I saw them do it. We have a motion second on the floor. Any other questions? These are good questions. These are pennies make dollars. All in favor, I'll ask for a roll call, but who votes first tonight?
I have one question.
Okay, hold on, I'll cancel the roll call. Mr. Moncur.
No, that's
Okay.
I think you have-
Roll call vote starts with Ms. Thompson. We're now Mr. Nash. That motion carries 7-0. Your second batch of
Before we
bills.
go on to the next set.
Yes.
I meant to ask Philip, you had mentioned that we did not have the title for the garbage truck yet.
I think we did that.
Do we have it now?
It took,
Because I see we're paying,
some
we paid for
unpleasantry
it.
on the discussion, but the title is.
I was very impressed with your unpleasantry.
My
It
unpleasantry,
was tactfully done.
delivered us a title 2 days later, I think.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Your second batch of bills totals $381,635.12. They're broken up by category. Members of council, what's your pleasure?
Move to approve, Mayor.
Is there a second to Mr. Green's motion?
Second.
Mr. Nash, a second. Any discussion? Questions?
Yes, I have 2 questions.
All right.
One under administration on page 1, $169.99 for chairs.
2 chairs, 2 employees need a new chair to.
Ms. Thompson and I have been a little bit kind of just playing. We've been trying to get elevated for the last 5 years. All right. What's up? What other question?
The next question was, on the police department for Town Gun Shop Incorporated for $1,538. It says Armor Carrier /B, and I don't know what that is.
Tony, can you share with us the armor carrier? I don't know right offhand.
What is that? I'm sorry. I didn't-
But bulletproof vest,
For 2 new officers.
bulletproof vest for 2 new officers. Run about 700 each. Yeah. It's the Kevlar. Is it Kevlar?
Didn't we just buy new vests for everybody?
We probably bought the 10, or.
We bought vests that expired. I believe, Sergeant.
This is probably for the 2 new officers
Yeah.
in the academy now.
The other ones go bad after 5 years, don't they? Or they want you to replace them every 5 years, even though they haven't been used, thank goodness, as far as receiving shrapnel.
I've got a question about Wigglesworth. It's got reimbursable on it, so this is for that safety grant, correct?
Yes, this is the,
Okay. Right.
All right.
The, under police department, it has Juan Ramirez for DUI interpreter.
Spanish speaking.
Is that reimbursed by any chance through court or anything?
No.
I don't know if they charge. I'd have to ask you.
That's a great question. I would certainly, I think
I
we
would
talked to our
think it should
Commonwealth's
go
attorney,
through.
we should try to make sure restitution covers that. Maybe.
I believe we've asked that question.
Speaking of Commonwealth's attorney, we have our deputy prosecutor right here with us.
I mean, I would think we
Any idea? Just thinking out,
I would guess that it is not covered. The Supreme Court covers the interpreters for magistrate hearings and for the court, and don't believe there's any additional fee passed on to the defendant or victims because they don't want to charge anyone more simply because they don't speak English. I can look into that.
I would think, I mean, I would hate that our citizens have to pay for an interpreter that is gonna be charged in the court of law. So,
is that why you were taking Spanish the other day? Any further discussion? Mr. Hamner, yes, sir.
Under Blackstone Animal Defense, $182 for rabies, how many dogs does it pay on one?
That is a checkup and rabies.
that's probably pretty cheap, to be honest. A dog is.
The dogs are worse than the twins.
Good questions, all. Good questions. It's when our dogs will be in good shape. Any further discussion? We have a motion, a second on the floor. All in favor, starting with Ms. Thompson? Motion carries 7-0. Moving along to your committee reports. Our first report is the Employment and Police Committee. And I believe there is,
Phil's going to explain it.
there's a reorganization chart.
Yeah.
There's about 3 or 4 names on it. This is Louise, Barbara, Janet, and, yeah.
3.
Yeah. I've read this several times. You could just give from my interest, who's moving to where, when?
Janet Matthews is planning to retire the 1st of July at the bus system. Our intention is to replace Janet with Barbara Rothgill, who's one of the dispatchers. There would be no reduction in salary. Janet's making $14.21 an hour, and I think Barbara's making $14.77, so it's an approximate swap. However, half of Barbara's salary will be paid for by the state in reimbursement.
Okay.
And I put some notes in here. After being waylaid by encephalitis, I realized my job can be done by other folks. I don't know if we have the vision and all these other things, but the bills are going to get paid, and grass litters are going out, and all these things are going to happen. Maybe we have to wait a little bit on zoning, but I can tell you nobody can send a utility bill out other than Brenda Bryant. One of the things that has been brought to my attention, I think the town has tried it on a couple occasions. Certainly there was an employee assigned to work with Brenda when I started working here. The intention is to take Brittany Harris and move her back with Brenda to certainly understand how to produce the utility bill for the town. At the same time, Louise would come over and work the front counter. I think her intention is to retire quite shortly. I don't think she's going to be a long-term situation. But I think the goal was not to lay anybody off, fill in gaps as needed, and I think we have a unique opportunity to do so. And those are the recommendations.
And the overall net savings to the people of Blackstone is about $3,200, $3,100 a year?
if we can reduce some overtime that Brenda's doing right now, I think that's factored in there, so, I think that there will be a net, reduction in cost.
Is this based on the town will be fully dependent on the county dispatching for police effective July 1st, is that right?
How sure are we that we will see those savings due to overtime reduction? I mean,
They're an assumption. They're an assumption, but we've got to reduce some of the overtime. I mean, just flat out.
I mean, is that gonna be up to the employee themselves?
I think
or-
it's a goal by the town manager, but it's not just an assumption, it's a goal, is that correct?
So you will oversee it yourself, is what you're,
The
okay.
plan is, this is
So
what we're gonna,
who approved that overtime?
That's what I,
initially it'd be Gwinnett, and then it'd be me. Gwinnett's the direct
but
supervisor.
we'll keep a hand on it. I mean, obviously, you're gonna have some probably, but
You see all the overtime, for example, I know the police overtime can't be, sometimes you just can't help it. But all the overtime, your eyes look at
Our
it.
overtime is specific to things like flushing hydrants, and we're pretty much on a schedule. We know when we need to do overtime for the guys. We hit a little bit on the leaves when we start getting behind around Thanksgiving and people want to get stuff cleaned up, but we really shouldn't have a dramatic amount of overtime in the field, in the street department, in the utilities. There shouldn't be unless Andre gets called in for water.
Like the other day, they had a limb on Second Street, electrical
Electric
department.
guys come in, and those are just built in. But here in the office, we need to be able to get the utility bills out in an 8-hour day.
Okay.
We need to be able to do that. That's just the standard stuff.
I move to take the Employment and Police Committee's recommendation and approve their proposal.
Effective July 1st.
Correct.
Mr. Green's moved, is there a second? Second. Mr. Tucker has second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Your next committee report, you have the account and yes.
One moment, please.
Yes, sir.
For the police, today starts the National Police Officers Week. Be nice to your people, helping coffee and stuff like that. But what I'm gonna do is have a moment of silence for the prayer for those who were lost in action, and pray for the families who were lost in doing this action.
I will have a moment of silence for all fallen police officers over the past year. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Thank you very much. Your next minutes are your account and finance, and I believe, Mr. Green, this first page, we may have just covered it with the dispatch, and well, I'll let you handle it. Go ahead.
We have three recommendations,
All right,
Mayor.
go right ahead.
The committee is supporting the Police and Employment Committee's recommendation, and we recommend to discontinue the dispatching department effective July 1st.
All right, is that a motion?
It is.
Is there a second to Mr. Green's motion? Mr. Moncur has seconded the motion. Discussion. We basically just did it a moment ago, but this further reinforces it. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, 7-0.
We also recommend sending a letter to Nottaway County requesting additional funding to cover fire trucks and air packs and other apparatus, and to have the letter published in the Courier Record as a public notice.
Okay. is
I
that
make a
mo-
motion.
is that a- Mr. Nash has seconded that motion. Any further discussion? I guess this is, just not to belabor, could you just give a spirit of the rationale behind it, just briefly, just to?
Well, I guess what I wanted to do was to kind of get our thoughts, see if we had council support, and
Gotcha,
I'll get with you and write a letter for council's
Very
approval
good, very good.
next month.
Very
How's that?
good.
I think the main thing this came about simply because we're also getting ready to increase our, what do you call it? Our response area.
Well, our
Possibly.
response area now is already.
No, you are
Right.
with Fast C. That's
Right.
ours.
That's
the town of
true.
Blackstone.
That's true.
That's the town of Blackstone. That's a no-brainer. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
It already happens.
So I guess we'd like to, I guess what we're trying to do here is to get the backing of council to do the work, to go to the county and say, this is our expenditures and this is what the burden we're putting on the town citizen versus the county citizen. If we have the backing of council, we'll do the work. That's pretty much what this says.
Very good. We have a motion and a second on the floor. Any further discussion? All in favor on the letter, say aye. Aye. Opposed? That also carries 7-0. And Mr. Green?
Strong letter.
Very good.
I'll do my best to have a letter in the next council package.
Duly noted, Mr. Moncur. Go ahead, Mr. Green, the budget?
The committee recommends presenting the fiscal year 2018 budget highlights at the May council meeting, which includes a balanced budget of $15,473,522. And you have a package in front of you. It is a summary of where we are so far, and we'd be glad to hear any comments or any guidance is where y'all want us to go. I'm not going to bore you to death with it, but I do want to make one statement for the record. One of the things that may be misconstrued is that we're proposing to cut DBI's funding, $18,000, which is 1/3 of what we're doing now. The rumor on the street is that the Finance Committee is going to recommend to council to phase our funding out. That is not the case. The Finance Committee would like to eventually get to show our continued support by contributing similar to other communities and nationwide. But not phase out, but phase to a 50-50, 60-40, whatever split the council.
We look at what other towns do.
Right,
I don't
but-
have any idea what Farmville's doing, for example.
Well, we can give you, and town manager's well versed, but we're doing much more than other communities
This was an
are.
idea that we conceived 3 years ago.
Right.
And I'm finally following through with it. And we were gonna do it in increments so as to be as palatable as possible.
This cut may be more severe that we're proposing than next year, but in light of balancing the budget with some of the issues of health insurance and some of the things we need to do for our policemen, that's why we're recommending the 1/3 cut of 18,000. But no one on the committee has any ill will or lack of support for DBI.
Gotcha.
We want
Very
that on the
good.
record.
Very good.
Okay.
Very good.
Basically, we're facing a 12.2% increase. It's $52,272 in healthcare for the town. We're proposing a balanced budget of $15,473,522. All tax rates would remain the same. The police department has one merit increase that totals $4,300. And if you have any questions about that, we have an employee called Influx, and this would catch this employee up that hasn't been in the past been rewarded for years of service. So this, we're asking to catch this one employee up. If council has any questions, the town manager will be glad to answer that. We also, I want to make it abundantly clear that the Finance Committee supported initially the committee recommended the raises for the police department. And we supported that. All three of us supported that. But we had a delegation, the leadership of the Blackstone Police Department here at a Finance Committee meeting, and they provided testimony, and they provided basically all four in attendance emphasized to the committee their desire to have the Leo's retirement benefit in lieu of the raises. So not being disrespectful to something that we all voted for, but when you've got, except for Sergeant Matthias, you've got the leadership there speaking for the rank and file that they would much rather prefer to have the Leo's retirement. So that's why we're presenting it in this budget.
Very good.
Any questions about that?
I have a question about that. If the town adopts this, would there, on this Leo, would there be a time vested? In other words, would you have to stay here 5 years? If you leave here in 4 years, where do we stand on that?
What we'll have to do is have to do a study before we do any of it, and a lot of those questions will be answered, but everything I've heard about it is you have to be vested. You just can't come in here one day and leave. If you did, the benefit would be minuscule. Yeah, I mean, you're talking 72 cents a month, something, you know. So,
Obviously have to go to another locality that has
Right.
Leos.
That has
Right,
Leos.
that's right.
How about this, Mr. Green and Mr. Norbeck, just thinking, I don't need to answer tonight, but I know a lot of times, in the VRS, Virginia Retirement System, you're at the whims and fancies of what the state's doing. Sometimes the rates, the employer contribution will go up a point or two. This Leos right now has a projected $45,000 a year cost to town.
That's what we were told last.
Could that cost, is that a cost that will, as the officers get older, will it grow annually?
I think it could grow. Yeah, I don't think it's a static cost for the next perpetual amount of time. I
Right.
think this actuarial study that we will conduct to start the
Right.
process.
I support it, but like I said, I think we need to know, once it lifts off, we need to know we need to make sure everybody knows
I think it
how high
has
it'll
the
fly.
potential that it could grow. Hopefully, it won't grow exponentially, and hopefully, the intended effect is, because retirement can come at an earlier age without an erosion of benefit, that your older officers will choose to go at 55 and 25 or 55 and instead of 65 and 30 like the administrative staff, that the intention is that they would leave earlier.
If we would offset,
Fully retired.
a $60,000 patrolman,
Right.
the cost would offset that by him retiring early.
What I'm hearing from y'all is, this is, what I did talk to Chief, and officers, y'all can nod your head. I've been told this is a very good recruitment and retainment incentive. Would that be accurate? Because one of the things I hear people in the street, everybody tell me, they worry about you guys. Sometimes we're thin. Blackstone's a very big town, a lot of different areas. Got the shopping center, downtown, residential. So we want to make sure you guys have institutional knowledge, especially people like Sergeant Maiden and Sergeant Matthias who've been here, and Murphy and Officer Scott. We want to keep those folks.
That's what our research is indicating. We also have been, we're not recommending to the council having across the board percentage raise. We've done that in the past. But the council has been doing department by department. If you'll recall, we made some adjustments to police department and we made some adjustments to street department. This year, we're focusing our attention on some merit salary increases in the administration department. And those figures were left at your desk.
Okay.
If there are any questions about that, I'd be glad to answer.
Just so any citizens wonder, administration does not mean mayor or members of council. We're not getting here, we just want to make sure everybody understands that.
No. All right, moving right along.
Ben,
Sir?
does that 10,000 include the merit increase for the officer as well?
No, that's already budgeted in there. Mhm. That's in the police department budget. The enterprise funds, which are for those are water, sewer, electric, things that we collect money for and we provide a service. The town electric rates would stay the same. We have a projected decrease in rates, but we also have what is called a true-up. And what that means is we buy power from an association at a great savings, and they estimate the rates, and they try to be accurate with the rates. But the fact of the matter is sometimes they didn't charge us enough, and sometimes they overcharged us. Well, this particular year, they didn't charge enough, and our portion of that is $40-some thousand, $42,600 some. So the decrease in the electric rate is going to be gobbled up by the true-up. So we won't raise rates, but unfortunately, we won't be able to lower the rates because we have to pay this true-up.
Gotcha.
All right, any questions about that? We're adding $124,500 in depreciation costs. Later on tonight, we'll hear about buying a garbage truck with cash, and that's what we're trying to get to. So, the town water and sewer rates in this budget we're proposing would be to increase by 3%, and that is to fund the town's share of the East End project. This would increase the water sewer revenue fund from last year's contribution of $203 to approximately $274. We've applied for a grant that we have a liability of $600,000 to $700,000. If we don't get the grant, we're looking at a liability of probably $1 million, similar to the Brunswick Avenue project. So one way or another, we're facing the $750,000 investment. So we're trying to get out in front of it now, like we did with the electric rates. You know, we got out in front of it, and then when we had that big rate, we had the money. So that's what we're proposing. So, is there any questions about those?
No question. This is one little quick sidebar. Roughly speaking, right now as we speak, how much money does the town of Blackstone have in reserves?
Well, it's funny you ask.
Okay. I just want to I don't know the answer.
In your general fund reserve, you have exactly $1 million as of today, and that's undesignated cash. And in your electric reserve fund this past fiscal year, we put $337,000 in that. So, completely undesignated, you have those two items, almost $1.4 million.
How about water sewer? What do we have? Just roughly. 100?
We'll have about 100. At the end of this fiscal year, I'm going to tell you, and this is a swag, at about $120,000
Okay.
at the end of the fiscal year.
Folks, I think it's really important y'all hear that because 5 years ago in these chambers, we had nothing. Very good. Ms. Green, continue on.
I don't, I'll just give you the highlight of the capital improvement projects for the public. We need to replace some of the fuel piping at the airport and paint the fuel tanks. Street department, we're in desperate need of a new leaf machine. It's about $45,000. We have a alley storm drain project of $135,000. We have a school sidewalk project grant that our match is $260,000. We've been talking about refurbishing in the electric department, the peak generators. You know, one time we had a $90-some thousand true up because the generators weren't properly run. So to get these up to speed, that's $205,000. The Amelia Avenue water and sewer lines, we're budgeting $100,000 and $16,000 for new cemetery street signs. So that's the capital outlay. The rest of it will give you the remaining 5 pages are a snapshot of the entire budget. There's a couple things I want to bring your attention to. If you'll go to page 5. What I tried to do this afternoon was look at this if I was one of the 4 that's not on the committee, and maybe I can answer some questions that you might have. On page 5 under fire and rescue, last year we budgeted $82,000 for insurance. This year we're budgeting $50,145. Now, why would you say that? Well, the reason is Jennifer Hardy did a great job and found where we were overpaying, and so now that's caught up, saving the town $30,000. Right down below that capital outlay, in the fire and rescue last year was $155,000 opposed to nearly $40,000 this year. We had a grant in that, and it skewed the numbers. Same thing, you come on down and you'll see, if you see capital outlay, a lot of times the grants are passed through, okay? The other item in waste removal, the capital outlay last year was $174,000, this year's $24,000, garbage truck. So that was, and the last issue I saw that I wanted to share with you is on page 6 in the cemetery, under the sale of cemetery lots. Last year we budgeted $2,000, and this year we're budgeting $7,500. The figure we gave you is what was budgeted. We're probably close to $5,000 or $6,000 now, so that's why there's a big jump. We're actually selling that many lots, so we're projecting $7,500.
We're dying, folks. We're dying.
We increased our price.
So the rest of the budget, there's nothing in here. You know, I made the promise to the 7 of y'all that when I was appointed chairman, never be anything done in here. Be surprises. So this is where we are now. And we're asking you to absorb this, and if you have any indigestion about the direction we're going with this budget, trying to give you as much time to give us some feedback. So that's what we're asking for now. We already have an approved schedule. I don't want to belabor you with that. We'll be coming back to you with public hearings, but this is where we're going. Is there any questions about? I've got one more item, Mayor.
I have great words to say for the budget committee and the staff especially. Y'all did a great job.
Staff.
When might the budget be advertised and when might the hearing be?
You need to have 1 week between hearing and adoption. You know, there are 7 days, and you have to advertise it at least 1 time in the paper. You've got a June council meeting on the 19th already scheduled. You could still fit in adoption the week following.
I think we can do it. I think you can do it. I don't see a lot. I may be wrong. I've been wrong before. I don't see a long line of folks coming and breathing fire on this budget. I may be wrong, but I think you could have the hearing on the 19th.
And then adopt like on the 26th or...
If that's council's pleasure.
And certainly the committee will act at the pleasure of council. You haven't, before you have one more item?
Yeah, what was that?
One more item. This was it says PD salary increases, okay? And if I stumble here, pick me up, Mr. Manager. Originally, this was the recommendation of the police and employment committee, and I believe we voted on 7-0. Is that correct? Does that sound right?
Yeah,
I don't think there was any blowback at all. So the committee would like to offer the council a menu. We offer the budget as presented, and we'll go forward. If there are those of you that would rather go back to this, we'll budget that in, and we have a way that we can do both. It would be 2 pennies on the real estate tax to pay and give both benefits.
So you could do raises and Leos with 2 cents extra, go from 20 cents to 22 cents.
That's correct.
On the real
We're
estate.
22 now.
We're 22 now, go to 24. So
I forgot that. Of all people, I forgot that.
So we're looking for some direction. Instead of coming to you, I think, instead of coming to you and saying that here it is, I mean, we're at the point now, if this is something that the council feels we need to pursue, then this year we have shaved everywhere we can shave. If we want to make this, we want to do this, then we're gonna have to raise the real estate tax.
Do you want some council input right now on this?
I move that council, I move that we do both, and that we include the two pennies on the tax increase, for the police department, in an effort to reward and retain our fine officers.
Let's make a motion.
All right, let me be clear. Mr. Green's moved and Ms. Thompson is seconded to include in the budget advertisement when that time comes forward a 2% real estate tax increase. It'd be nice if you put a sentence in there.
2 cents.
2 cents.
Not percent,
Which
2
is,
cents.
yeah, 2 cents to, this is to fund the raises and the retirement supplement
Correct.
for the police department.
And that use only.
Right. Now, of course, I'm gonna get you, Mr. I'm trying to make sure, because we also need a motion, I guess, we need a motion to advertise the budget itself. You want to include that, you want to go ahead and include that, advertise the proposed budget?
Yes, sir.
And schedule a hearing on June 19th?
Well, we presented council with a calendar that we've approved.
You did, we approved it last week, I just can't remember what the dates were.
But I think we authorized the town manager to call public hearings as long as it weren't any action,
I
so.
think the latest you can go is on the 19th.
Okay.
So I include that.
All right, Mr. Green has moved, and Ms. Thompson has seconded to, when the budget is advertised, it will include the outline presented moments ago by Mr. Green, plus a 2-cent real estate tax hike, strictly to supplement the police officer salaries and the new retirement program. Mr. Moncur had a question.
Well, I don't want to be a wet blanket necessarily, but I would like to point out one thing. With the Leos at an estimated cost of $45,000 a year, 42, 45. This has got an estimated cost of a little bit about $20,000 a year. You're looking at almost $7,000 to $8,000 a year increase in salaries on a per person basis for the police department. Now, I can't say it's not warranted. I can't say that these fellows don't deserve all we can give them. But I just want you to look at and see whether it's bigger than a bread box, how big it is, how large is what you're talking about, and how much we've done and what we can do. I would like to see it doubled, I would like to see a line outside of the door out here right now, people looking for a job. But on the other hand, there are limits, and unless you put it down into a dollar and cent basis, it's very hard to visualize what you're voting on sometimes.
Well, I will say this, I understand your concerns, but I differ with you greatly. I look at an opportunity, for us to retain and reward our police department, and look at our staffing now. We don't have anybody knocking the door down, and I think we've got great people here, and we need to keep. And I think you got to understand what we're asking here is to put it in the budget, and we'll have public hearings, and people can come if there's a problem, and the people don't support it, then we'll have that feedback then. So that's what I mean. We could have done this differently, but I'm looking for the voice of the council.
You're throwing the big net out there and
Right.
see, and just we may have 50 people standing in line.
What I said was not a vote on my part, it was an informational.
Sure, absolutely.
So everybody looks
But
at
I
it.
think this is our core responsibility to the
Well,
community.
it is, and we owe, just like we owe.
I think it's been overlooked.
Everybody on that payroll.
And I think during the 4 years I wasn't sitting up here, some things were done that this would, in my opinion, negate.
And we did bring back the take-home cars. That's July 1st, isn't it? Effective July 1st, was that effective immediately? Take-home cars.
It's already.
I think it's already.
25 miles. Was that last year?
Yeah.
Where have I been? Man, I'm doing too much. Good conversation, good points. I think, like I say, you want to throw a budget out there. I don't want to use the word worst, but worst case scenario with the money, and then you can reel it back in with the hearing. You can't. One thing you can't do in a budget, Mr. Norbeck, you can't advertise X and then go X plus 10,
And that's why we're trying to give,
Decrease, but you can't.
you can't, I see Mr. Nathaniel Miller, then we have a vote.
I got a question. You
All right.
know, we all know we need the police. I have no problem with y'all going for the police. You know, then you said you gonna give money to the admin. But what about the public service that you got going around your house? Don't you think they might need a couple dollars too?
You talking about the street department, garbage department?
we did street and garbage a couple years ago.
We took care of
This-
the
The
garbage.
the garbage men all got dollar, yeah. And the light man, we did some adjustments in the electrical department a couple years
Electrical
ago.
and the
didn't we?
police too.
We have also, we've also stated that what raises we give right now are merit raises. So if they're due, trust me, they've been looking at.
We gave the garbage department pretty good raises last year, and across the board, and everybody got a couple $1,000
Somebody raised
raises
garbage
there.
rates,
And
raised garbage
as
rates.
far as the street department, I didn't recommend raises for the street department based on some of the performance issues, and these are merit issues. And I spoke with the department heads and some of the employees and said, if we can't get the grass cut, if we can't do the basics, then I'm not gonna recommend a raise for them. And I think they understand it, and it's based on merit, just like everything else, and I didn't recommend any raises for the street department, but we did do the garbage department. I think it was last year.
Last year.
But one thing we have to remember, and please, public sector employees, don't shoot me when I say this. The town's health insurance cost is $52,000 more, and it would have been a lot higher. So, you know, if you had to go out and buy health insurance, which some people in this room do, have to pay for their own health insurance, that's a raise that is pretty hard to put a price tag on it, especially when if you use the service. Not trying to sound like I'm not grateful, but I think this is a very sensible, I think this might be one of the best budgets I've seen since I've been here, to be honest with you. We have a motion and a second. And I like the fact we're going bold on PD. I think Mr. Green hit on something. He used a phrase I love, core responsibility. That's as core as it gets right there on the men and women who wear that badge. All in favor of advertising the proposed budget and having the hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Very good.
Now, we have a motion and a second to include,
Yes.
is
That's
that what we
included,
just
yes.
voted on? Okay.
We're advertising, we're shooting the moon, and we may get run out of here. We'll see what, I will tell you, a lot of people expressed to me concern about, you're gonna lose more officers. You're gonna lose y'all.
Change my vote to abstain.
Mr. Scott did abstain. He legally can't